Welcome to Leadership Moments.
In every great leader's life, there are pivotal moments that shape their character, test their resilience, and awaken their vision.
Together, we'll uncover the invaluable lessons hidden within these transformative moments. Today, our guest is Susan Ireland. Susan is a professional coach, leader, dynamic speaker, and podcast host who inspires enduring transformative change. Susan currently works with leaders at all levels to enhance leadership and business acumen, encourage self-discovery, and turn challenges into positive results. Prior to coaching, Susan built a deep leadership experience during her 30-year career at Boeing, a global organization. She held key business operation leadership roles such as Director of Business Operations for the 787-9 and 787-10 development airplane programs. In addition, Susan was credited with playing a key role on the original leadership team that built and established a new digital aviation business for Boeing commercial airplanes. Following her time with Boeing, Susan was recruited to play a strategic role within a startup company that developed, manufactured, and installed hydrogen systems on diesel engines. Susan is the co-founder of Seasons Leadership, a professional coaching and consulting services business. Today, we are going to talk about owning your career and just saying yes can lead to a positive pivot in your role. Let's dive in. Hi, Susan. I'm so excited for you to be here today. You have had such a great career so far, and it's still going. And I'd love to start talking about a turning point in your career. So would you like to tell us the story that you and I have discussed before about that?
Sure. Well, it's funny when you say career, because what I'm going to tell you about is the beginning of my career, which really I didn't think about as a career. I thought about it as a job. So I started working at the Boeing company when my two daughters were very young and I was a single parent. And I was really focused on the money. I was looking for the highest paying job I could get. I lived in Seattle and I knew about Boeing. As a matter of fact, I said at that point, I will never work at Boeing, because I was just being defiant because it was just there in my backyard. But it really was the best employer for me. And so I took the job because it paid the most at the time for me, and it had good benefits, which was really important to me. That was my motivation, really, was money. So that's just where my head was at. I was hired into industrial engineering. At the time that I was hired, Boeing was really on an upswing, hiring a lot of people. And I thought I was getting another job there as a facilitator in communications, which was my degree. But I ended up here and they said, well, do you still want this job? And I said, well, yeah, I need the job. I quit my other job to come here. So yes. So I figured it out. There was training and people to help me and that kind of thing at the time. And luckily, just clicked with me. I really just took to it and I was interested in it. I love the products and the people, and there was a lot to do and a lot to learn. I just kind of kept going. And I didn't think about a career. I just thought about the next thing. So like I'd learn this job and then I'd say, okay, what's the next thing I'm supposed to do? There was kind of a path-ish at Boeing, and there was training that was provided to you if you got to certain levels and that kind of thing. So I was following the path that they had, which was good. And there was people there to help me and to give me advice and that kind of thing. It really was great for me because my head did not even consider like, well, what do you want to do, Susan? It was just, where's the money? I'm going to follow the money, because it was tight. I was a single parent and I had to work this out. So I had debt, I had my priorities. After a while, I started feeling more comfortable. I had gotten some promotions and got my feet under me. And then I started thinking about, okay, what do I really like? What kind of work do I like to do? Where is that within Boeing? Because I wanted to stay. And so again, I followed the path. So I can't say that it's a turning point at this point. My experience has given me a lot of insight for what maybe I could have done better. And it's really informed me in my work today as a coach, because I think if I would have maybe thought differently back then, I maybe would make different choices, which would maybe accelerated my career, maybe changed it, but I would have had more agency in what I was doing rather than relying on the company to guide my development and my career, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's really great. And I think there's so much to unpack there. The first thing is, as a single parent, and I've been that in my life as well, you just go with the motions. It's whatever it takes. You're just getting through the day, trying to do the best as you can at your job, with your children, with your family, whatever that looks like. And so thinking about tomorrow, next week, sometimes can be a lot to take
Yes.
on, especially when the kids are really young. And so you mentioned this piece that Boeing, thankfully, had a career plan, a traditional career
Mhm.
trajectory for everyone, and you were following that plan. And then you had a realization later on
Yeah.
about maybe I should advocate for myself more. Did you have other leaders or other peers that advocated for you to help you see that? And how did that change your view once you experienced that?
Yes, it did. And luckily, I had those people in my life from the very beginning. The environment was different. This was in the 80s, the 1980s, back in the last century. And so there's a lot of things that have improved since then. For instance, there wasn't very many women in where I was. Oftentimes I was the only woman in the room. And the management theory at that time was more command and control than it is now. But I'll tell you, there were some parts of that I didn't like, but there was, I think, more, this is going to sound funny, there's more nurturing. So people, and mostly men, a few women that were there, pulled me under their wing and said, this is how you do this. And this is what you should be thinking about. Do you think you want to go into management, or how far do you want to go? And I hadn't even thought about it. So I did have people that were ushering me along, which was so helpful. And I think people need that today too. And so I'm always an advocate for expanding your network. And there was one point when it was a leader, a high leader, like a vice president, and I was not even in management. I was probably a level 5, which was like an independent contributor, which means nothing to people. And he wrote me a note and said, Susan, I think you should apply for this job. It was an HR job, and it was a special assignment that was going to last for a couple of years. And it was in a field that I knew nothing about. But because he said, I think you should apply for this, and I really respected him, I thought, well, I'll do it. So I applied, and what they were looking for at that time was my skill. It was a program management type of a skill, and they were looking to apply that to an HR process. So I said, I can do that. I don't know about this process, but they said, okay, that's all right. We'll train you on that. And it turned out to be one of the best positions I had. I learned a ton. I was working with vice presidents for the most part. I was in their meetings. There's a group of vice presidents and kind of working through this process. I had the schedules and the action items, and I was making sure everything that they said they were going to get done got done. And I was very intimidated because here I was leading these meetings for this group of people. I really was very intimidated and thought, what am I doing here? This is crazy, really. This group of all men were so supportive. And one of them said early on, they were all sitting around waiting for me to talk. They probably looked at my face and knew, like, oh, she is really nervous, and said, Susan, you are our leader in this. We need you to lead. And how he said it flipped a switch in me. And I thought, this is true. I need to do my job, because they don't have time to do it. I mean, they could do it with their eyes closed, right? They're busy with other things. They need me to do my job, and they need me to do it well and to get out of my own way. I started thinking of myself differently, and how I showed up, I think, was then more confident. Maybe I was more brave. I just was able to do it. That was a big turning point for me.
There's two things there that I really liked. And one of my leadership core principles is love your team members. And people often say, Stacy, what do you mean love? I love my family. I love my best friend, but love my team members, that's a bit much. What I try to tell people is if you care for your team members like you care for a close friend or family member, you will do anything for them. And that's what I heard from you is you had some leaders along the way that cared for you. They loved you in a way to help you and really take the time to embrace that. And I guess before I get to the second point, I want to ask you, how have you taken that? And then when you leveled up into leadership, what have you done to do the same for others to help our listeners understand what could they
Right.
do to help people?
Right. This leadership team that I was leading in this process was at Boeing, and the leader there was Alan Mullally. So I don't know if you know him, but he's a great leader, and he has these working together principles and practices. And what he espouses is love them up. And he is very vocal about it. I learned from the best, and I appreciate you saying it's one of your core principles too, because it's definitely in mine. I felt the power of it for me. I mean, it's really about really respecting people and honoring the gifts that they have and allowing them to shine, which is so empowering. It feels so good. You want to go to work. So what I did is I really appreciate it. So I wanted to do that for others. In a way, it's kind of selfish because by doing that and allowing people, by loving them enough to let them do their job, it frees you up. It frees me up to do my job, which I need to do, which is different. It was really great. I lived the principles there, and I felt how it felt to be respected for the work that I was doing and that they needed me there. I mean, all jobs are really important. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there.
I love that. And I felt respect. And so I wanted to respect other people. I also really like the piece that you say, by me enabling them, it freed me up. That's something that's very hard. Sometimes it's really hard for our leaders. I have a lot of clients that it's hard to give up that control. And
Yeah.
because you work so hard to get that control, and how do you give it up now? And the reality is, when you give it up, you're now building your successor. So you can then move up to the next thing. And being able to do that, if you have that trust and that respect within your culture, within your organization, you can do that. So those are really, really great points.
Right.
I appreciate that.
And Stacy, I do want to talk about this some more because this is a stickler for me. It feels really good to be the expert and to have all the answers and to know everything. I mean, it's our identity. It feels good. It's very seductive. It is a lie. Nobody knows everything. You can't do everybody's job. And if you try, it actually brings the whole organization down. Your own performance is not as good. So it's like a total lie. So many people get wrapped up into this. So this team that I worked with, they were being able to see highly effective, performing people who are really doing their job well is an amazing gift that I was able to see and experience. I always tell people, if you see a leader that you respect, go hang around, see what they are doing, ask them what they're doing, get their advice, because it is, unfortunately, I think, kind of a rare quality these days.
I love that it's a lie. It's such a strong statement. I've never heard it put that way before. And it hits home. You cannot be the only one. You cannot be perfect. You will be better by bringing other people in. I really enjoy that. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. So now you had someone reach out to you and say, hey, I think you'd be really good for this role. And this
Yeah.
was you working with executives. I don't know, were you a leader yet at all?
I was not in management. No, there was a big difference in levels here. Yes.
Yeah, so that can be really intimidating. I don't know if you have a relationship with them, but just title alone, a lot of people can be intimidated,
Yes.
especially if they're not even a leader yet. So really love that. So saying yes to that person, you said because you trusted them, but that had to be really scary. So what advice would you give to our listeners to help them say yes to as well in the future if they have such an opportunity given to them?
Right. Well, I think there's lots of opportunities out there, right? So it happens all the time. There's a lot to say yes to. And there's more downside to saying no. I don't know that I have good advice. It's just to make people feel braver because I think you don't feel brave. You just do it and cross your fingers and hope for the best. Talk to people to say, I'm not feeling confident. What do you think? Get people's insights because the people around you see the gifts that you have that you're too close to. So they say, I see you. I know you can do this. The reason why you're selected for this is because others see it in you too. So trust other people a bit and just dive into it. If it turns out to be a mistake, there is ways to recover. There always is.
I think that was great advice that there's actually more to lose by saying no. That's a strong statement. And I completely agree with you because if you do say yes and you apply for that role and you don't get it, what's the worst that can happen? You're still doing the same role you're doing today, right? It's
That's
not
right.
like that's going to change. So
That's right.
it's really, really good point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anything, more people get to know you and what you have to offer.
That's right. You
Yeah.
meet more people through interviewing. They get to see some of your strengths. You might not have the right strengths for that particular job, but now they know about you and they know what you do have to offer. So when that right role comes up, they may make that phone call like that individual did for you and say, hey, I think you should apply for this, or I think you should try this.
It's
So
true. It is true. As a little side note, once I became a leader and I was in more conversations about other people's career and who was ready for what and that kind of thing, I was surprised. I didn't know that these kind of conversations were happening, and they happen a lot. So I often tell people that I coach, talk to people about what your career aspirations are, what you're interested in, apply for those jobs because you want to be part of those conversations. So you don't know when the right job is going to come up, but you want to be top of mind.
that is such a great point because you're right. A lot of people don't realize that these conversations happen. And they are happening all the time. Now, if your organization is mature enough to facilitate formal succession planning, then you have very formal conversations about it. There's very strategic questions. I've done a lot of facilitation around succession planning. But even if you don't have that formal succession planning, leaders talk with each other. They have to because they have to build their succession plan in order for them to move up. So you are being talked about whether you like it or not. So
It's
think
true.
about your brand, think about putting yourself out there and trying. And even if you fail, you are still highly regarded for trying.
That's perfect. You're exactly right.
Going back to the very beginning, when we were talking about your career plans, what advice would you give our listeners to focus on for their career development or that you have done as a leader to help people that have reported to you to help them with their career development?
First and foremost is to take control and ownership of your own career. Don't go with the flow. Now, the flow might be good. You might luck out like I did, and I was in a great company and I had a great career. But early on, take control. Figure out what you like, what really gets you excited, makes you excited to get up to go to work every morning, or at least most mornings. And do what you need to make that happen. And that means if you need to go back to school to get a degree, I went back to school later and got a master's in management. If that's going to be part of the requirements to wherever you're going, go and get it. Don't wait for the company to say, okay, now it's time, we'll send you or we'll pay for you. I don't even know if that happens anymore, but do it for yourself. And then you'll be more marketable and you'll have more choices and opportunities. The other thing I think is really important, and it's why I went into coaching, is get a coach, because a coach is somebody who's on your side 100%, no agenda. So the company has an agenda. Of course it does. It's a company. That's why it's in business. Your colleagues also have an agenda. No matter how much they love you, they still have an agenda. Your family or a spouse or a partner have agendas. So what a coach is somebody completely independent and is there for you to help you think through what you want and then to go get it, to put in those actions and plans to go get what you want. And that will accelerate your growth faster than anything. The other thing is getting mentors. So mentors in your company or your business, in your community that is in your field, so important, because they will give you insights and tell you what's new and what to look out for and all of those things. You really have to be motivated and doing this for yourself and not relying on anybody else.
We call ourselves, the term in the industry is executive coaches. So a lot of people believe they must be an executive before they gain an executive coach. And that is so not the case. You need to have a coach along the way, wherever you are in your career, that really helps you. They are your thought partner. They help you think through things. As you know, Susan, you do this all the time too. And really seeing the transformation in our clients, I'm sure you see it, is just amazing with having that person.
Yeah, I have coaches, so it really helps me. But I do hear from a lot of people, I would love to have a coach, but my company's not going to pay for it, so I'm not going to do it. And it doesn't have to be me. There's a lot of different places you could get coaching, but that is where I was. I understand completely, but I also see, there's so much upside and so much possibilities. You could get where you want to get to so much faster. But everybody's got to do it at their own pace. But I'm hoping that somebody who listens to this takes the advice and does something for herself or himself to go do this.
I totally agree. That's owning your career that you're saying, right? You must own your career. There are other people that will help you along the way, but at the end of the day, you have to own it. And owning it is finding those mentors. It is hopefully finding yourself a coach. And there is group coaching out there that helps reduce cost if cost is a factor. So there's different ways that you can minimize the cost, and you can talk to different coaches about that. But having that thought partner is so important. It's just reaching out. And sometimes people are like, well, I don't even know where to start. That's why you have a mentor or a coach. You say, I don't even know how to start, and they'll help you with that, of where to start and what to do. So really good points as well.
Yeah. It's again back to that saying yes. I'm just going to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Really good points. All right. Well, there's that sound. It is time for our fun questions. Are you ready for our fun questions?
I think so.
All right. The first one is, what is your favorite sound?
Oh, this is so crazy. I know exactly what this is. So my favorite sound is that sound that the Roku makes. Can you hear it in
You
your
mean when it's booting up?
When it's like, doo. I don't know what it is. I love it. I don't know what it is. I think like whoever figured that one out is a genius. I just love it.
Okay, I have to ask. When you hear it, what does it do to you? Like, what do you feel?
It makes me so happy. I know it makes no sense, does it? But I love it. I never want to get rid of my Roku just for that sound. I heard another one too just a couple days ago. So I'm in Ireland and I'm in County Mayo, and I was on Bertra Strand, which is a beach, kind of a spit. And the tide was going out, but it was pretty wavy. And the beach there is like rocks, like a lot of rocks. And I even recorded this sound. I stopped and recorded because the waves came in, and then when it was going out, it like pulled the rocks down and it made this sound that was just amazing.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah.
Every time I use my Roku and I hear that sound, I'm definitely going to be thinking of you.
Well, I hope it makes you as happy as it makes me.
I am definitely going to smile. That is for sure. All right. The next question is, what's the most unusual hobby you've ever tried or would like to try?
About over 10 years ago now, I tried oil painting with my fingers. So I'm a finger painter. So I think that's unusual. People say, what is finger painting? They think about kindergarten. And it is maybe a little bit like that, messy, but I continue to do it and I love it.
That is unusual. I love that, especially since I can't even draw a stick person. So I love anyone that can has any artistic abilities.
You would love finger painting because you can kind of squish it around. So if you don't like your stick person, you can kind of move them.
I don't know. I think a kindergartner might do better than me, but I'm willing to try it. All right. Well, Susan, thank you so much for today. Some great takeaways for our listeners. We have say yes, because you saying no, you are going to lose out on more opportunity. Owning your career, you have more to lose by not moving forward. Really important. Making sure that you're delegating, that you're bringing other people in for your succession, because it's a lie. Otherwise, don't lie to yourself. I really enjoyed that as well. Great takeaways. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great conversation.
And that concludes another episode of Leadership Moments. We hope you found inspiration and valuable insights in what we shared today. Remember, leadership is not defined solely by titles or positions, but by the choices we make and the moments that shape us.
Embrace the challenges that come your way. They may be the very moments that propel you toward greatness. We'd love to hear your thoughts and stories as well. Connect with us on our website at leadershipmomentspodcast.com or through social media on Instagram at tap_be-the-game-changer.
And Stacy Castor _. Remember, your leadership moment could be just around the corner, waiting for you to seize it. This is Stacy Castor, and what doesn't challenge you won't change you.
This is Tracy Ann Palmer, and be the change you wish to see in the world.